Hello,
Hey, how's it going?
going good. How about you guys?
Pretty good, pretty good. Hey,
Hello.
Do you guys know if Max is gonna join today or not?
I didn't hear anything.
I didn't hear
I didn't hear that
anything.
he wouldn't join. So, oh, there he is.
Hi everyone.
Hello.
Hi.
Hey, Christine.
Hey, long time no see.
Sorry. I was busy. Sorry. We have a meeting the same time, so
Oh no. Do we need to alter the meeting time? Sorry, my cat is. Hi. Should we alter the meeting time?
I think it's fine.
Yeah, we can if there's interest. This is just the 2 p.m. that's conflicting.
Oh, sorry, 2 p.m.
Yeah, is this the only one that's conflicting? We also have the other one that 10 a.m. I think.
Oh, you're a different time zone, right? Because I'm Eastern time zone, so
Oh yeah, so that's a Pacific time zone. Yeah. So we have it alternating. 1 week is 10 a.m. and then the other one is 2 p.m.
yes.
This is Pacific time zone.
Oh, this is 2 p.m., right? Oh,
This is 2
because
p.m. Yeah, it should be what? p.m. on Eastern. Yeah.
it's fine. It's okay. To me, it's okay. Oh, actually, can I ask something? Or should I list it on the agenda? Uh, hmm.
No.
Oh, actually,
Sorry, yeah.
sorry, the Gatekeeper 3.18, when is the expected release date?
I think that's actually the first topic of the meeting.
Yeah, we are waiting for that. So it's okay, no worry.
I'm trying to open the meeting notes.
It's just cutting RC and
Uh,
Rita had OPA viewer migration issue linked up, but I don't think she's gonna be here today.
Oh, I see. We can talk about the RC for sure. Are we okay to cut the release today?
I still have a PR that I think needs to be reviewed for it, but
Yeah. And I also have a PR that needs to be in 318. So This
Which ones?
Yeah.
I'll link it in the meeting doc.
Oh, I see. Okay, the 318 ones, the one in the milestones, right?
Yeah.
Milestone?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. I can review these ones after this one. Max, can you also take a look at these? Looks like they also need your approval.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm still trying to navigate to get to the milestones. The
Oh, I can. I just put it on the Zoom chat.
Thank you. All right, I always forget like which page it's hidden under. It looks like you get to it through the issues tab. Okay, so
Yeah, issues and milestones. Yeah.
all right, let's see. We've got expansion and Gator verify and enforcement point status, VAP generate status. Are we wanting to have the status thing blocking? That wasn't 100% clear to me as far as like blocking the release.
I think last we talked if you want to move VAP generation to beta in 319, I think we want this in 318 just to let it sit for a release and see if there are any issues.
Yeah, that's accurate. Okay, I mean there is some risk, like if there are non-trivial comments on the design, that might delay the release, but I agree with your analysis that it should soak a little bit. We can't just like go straight to beta. Okay, so what does that mean as far as the question Christine had around timeline for the release?
So let's
If
review these ones and then push for like an RC this week then,
yeah,
and then we can do a release the next week or so.
Yeah, with the risk of, you know, PRs may or may not have feedback.
Oh, yeah. If there's big changes, then yeah, that would push a bit. Or we do the yeah, we might risk whatever Jay was commenting on because of we want to sit for a bit.
or we can do RC and then cut another RC once we have those PRs in, and then cut.
Except I think that Christine's question was not about the release candidate, it was about the
Yeah.
actual release.
Yes, just a release date, just approximate. It's not. I don't need to know the exact date, but approximate. Thanks. Sorry.
Yeah, from RC to release, we have like a 1 to 2 weeks just soak time. So Christine, you should be able to test it with the RC, and if you have any issues, then let us know, and then we can fix it right away. If not, there'll be the release that we'll use. So it will be the same thing as the stable release.
Oh, because we need to wrap it with our operator. So just the release date is very important. Just around next week, right? Or anyway, like this month, right?
Depending on how these two PRs go, if they review are like passing, we merge them. So we can cut the RC like today or tomorrow or Friday, whenever. And if say we cut it on Friday, we give it like 1 week, and then we cut the release, stable release next week.
Okay, that's it. Thank you.
That's the happy part.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But if there are issues, then that might push the RC release a bit, and then just put plus 1 week after the RC release.
Okay, perfect. Okay, thanks.
But you should be able to test it with the RC release and let us know if you have any issues. If there are issues, then we can address those to make sure we don't have that in the stable release.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Otherwise, the RC release will be the same as stable release.
Okay.
Cool. Anything more with the cut RC side of this discussion?
Actually, when did you any expected date at 3.19?
Let's see which. So 3.18 is the one we're currently cutting. Yeah. I mean, we aim for quarterly, don't we? I don't know if we like actually hit that nowadays. I think once tech got into the slowdown period, we kind of slowed down commensurately.
Yeah, our official cadence is every 3 months, but sometimes depending on the PRs and whatnot, it sometimes might take a bit more.
So because 3.18 is released this November, so 3 weeks later maybe. Can I expect maybe around January? Oh no, February.
More like February or March, I'd expect.
February or March. Okay, thank
Yeah.
you.
So, anything else on this topic? If not, does anybody have any context on Rita's?
I have some strong feelings about it. And some questions. So clicking through to the issue, I see this is OPA doing a V1 transition. They're putting it the way they've written this. It seems like it's a breaking change to Rego, which, if that's true, one, I'm not sure we should adopt it like at all, because I mean, there's a couple of reasons. I should caveat all of this with it's predicated on the assumption that it's a breaking change. But the first reason is we only have so much effort available to rewrite our library. And VAP also exists and allows for enforcing constraints on the API server directly. So to the extent that we're putting any effort into rewriting templates, frankly, it should go toward recasting them as VAP where possible. Referential, obviously, that's like a caveat there. But let's increase the usefulness of VAP, I would say, because I think that's what keeps us from being a tech island. The other reason is it's not just us that has constraint templates, right? And users have written constraint templates, presumably as well. And if this is a breaking syntactical change, requiring users to update the content of their constraint templates, us adopting Rego v1 forces users to upgrade those constraint templates, right? Like, it's not just a breaking change for Rego, it would be a breaking change for us, right? And this is where my strong feelings come in, is frankly, if a language does this kind of breaking change, my impulse is to put an effort into migrating off the language rather than migrating from V0 of the language to V1 of the language, right? You're putting in a migration either way. Might as well take the lesson and migrate to a language that promises syntactical stability as part of its like core guarantee. Pay the cost once, not accept the risk of paying it multiple times. And if I'm sound a bit salty, it's because, yeah.
So would we run with this V0 compat mode then?
Well, that's the question, right? So all of what I've said and all of my salty feelings like are predicated on it being a breaking change, right? If V1 has some sort of easy modification that puts it in V0 compatibility, then...
Oh, there is, yeah, there's a --V0 compat flag.
Okay. Is this...
But at some point, that's going to go away, though. That's the thing. I think I asked in Slack before, like, when is that going to go away?
Okay. So then this is a message, frankly, that we should stop writing templates in Rego.
Yeah, let's clarify, like, if that's going to go away, because, like, when it does, say, I mean, it's fine today, but tomorrow if it goes away, then we'll have to migrate if you want to be compatible.
Or stop upgrading OPA and Gatekeeper.
Yeah.
And advise people to migrate off of OPA. Because there's risks of CVEs.
Right. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I think that there's going to be that. Yeah.
Yeah, and frankly, like, yeah, probably my advice there would be like, hey, users, there's breaking changes to Rego the language that eventually you will be forced to upgrade your constraint templates. I would recommend you find a new language so that this doesn't happen to you again. And then, we're going to keep on the backwards compatible version as long as we can. At some point, CVEs may force us to upgrade to a breaking version of OPA. Because there will no longer be patches available for the compatible version of OPA, or a version of OPA with a compatibility flag or whatever kind of mitigation there is. At that point, unfortunately, for security purposes, we'll need to upgrade. So it basically puts a ticking clock on everyone.
Yeah, it's definitely tricky. Yeah, unless we maintain our own OPA, then yeah, like there will be security issues and stuff, and then yeah.
I mean, so one thing we might be able to do is upgrade the dependencies of OPA. There have been CVEs associated with OPA itself. They seem to be relatively rare. So that could buy us some time, whether that's months or years. I don't know. That's kind of luck at that point. I would also think that frequency of CVE discovery depends on like extent of market penetration, right? So there's this like weird dynamic then where if Rego gets a massive spike in usage, we might wind up seeing CVE in Rego itself sooner rather than later. But if it has a massive spike in usage, maybe our stance has to be different. Because right now, like language dynamics wise, Rego is useful in OPA and not many other places, right? Whereas VAP, because it's in core K8s, it kind of has incumbency at this point. If that changes, it changes, but with the situation as it is.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree. Yeah. Let me ask the Styra folks again about the V0 flag. I think after we learn about hey, if it's going to be deprecated in say 3 months, whatever, then we might think about like how to approach from there.
Yeah. I mean, if it's around forever, then I think there's a different set of choices we have to make, right? Because the impact there would be that we effectively have two flavors of constraint templates that could wind up out there in the wild, right? Those that are V1 compatible and those that are not V1 compatible, right? And so if this is like an engine level flag, right, or configuration parameter, because we don't run OPA the CLI, we run OPA the Golang library, right? Then does that mean we have two instances of the Rego engine, right? Should we create a V1 OPA engine and a V0 OPA engine? If we do, what does that mean for referential data, right? Like another thing we don't want to do is like double the cache, the RAM usage associated with cache, which you might need to do. If it's not possible to share the data store between each engine. I think the cache is a separate object, so that might be a moot concern. But a doubling of RAM would be concerning, so it's definitely worth keeping an eye on. Actually, yeah, the cache is shared, because if I remember right, we sharded the every constraint template is compiled in its own Rego environment. So, and the cache is just like hot plugged in at evaluation time. So that might be a moot concern. From their ends, I would imagine part of why they wanted to make it a breaking change is that they were hoping to get rid of the effort of maintaining the backwards compatibility, right? Like needing to support the syntax parsing of both rule heads syntaxes, I'm sure is a pretty heavy burden for their parsing and interpretation. And might preclude some stuff that they want to do with the language in the future. So they may not want to commit to indefinitely supporting the V0 flavor of syntax. The other thing I'll say about the backwards compatibility stuff, which is like tangential, but I think interesting, is if you've ever sat in the cell integrating with Kubernetes task force stuff, backwards compatibility, KRM level backwards compatibility is a super weird conversation, right? Like there was, for instance, a bug in cost estimation that Cell had that caused the cost of certain calls to, I forget if it was be ignored or at least underestimated. And fixing that bug would increase the cost estimate of existing cell statements, which might cause them to be denied, which would break backwards compatibility for cell. So true API level backwards compatibility at the language level, because the API KRM backwards compatibility has behavioral considerations in addition to just the configuration surface looking the same. Yeah, it's hard. But the fact that Cell has made that commitment, to me, is a pretty major differentiator.
Yeah, it's just going to be awkward in the future if we deprecate the Rego support, and it's still under Open Policy Agent.
I mean, yeah, maybe, but it's what is best for the users and the project. The gatekeeper, which I define as gatekeeper rather than OPA as a whole, right? And forcing users to migrate, undermining the sort of trust that gatekeeper is a way to reduce your maintenance effort rather than increase it, right? We work for you, not the other way around. I think it's in some ways an obligation, right, to go with the platform that provides those guarantees.
Okay, yeah, let's ask about the V0 compat and then go from there. Yeah.
Sorry if that it sounds like you agree with me in principle.
Yeah, I think it's just going to be harder for the users because they're already using Rego, right? We could say, hey, okay, just move to Cell, whatever. But then they may want to keep using their existing Rego templates too.
I empathize, right? This is the issue, right? Users who just want to use what they've already been using, right? They're going to be broken either way, right? Because their Rego will stop working, and so they'll need to learn more Rego, or they could learn more Cell, right?
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with you. Yeah, it's just you have to go one way. They're both breaking changes.
Yeah, and that's why I would look toward the compatibility guarantees, right? Because as a user, probably my first question would be, I really don't like that I'm eating this cost. What are we doing to, as much as possible, eliminate the likelihood that I'll need to do the same thing again?
Yeah, I mean, we should probably look at the templates in the library and how much work it is. I mean, it turns out that, I don't know, 99% of them are fine, right? It's just like the 1% that's causing issues. Then we could fix those.
Fix them, how much work it is to do what exactly?
Say in library, I think OPA provides a flag to check for compatibility. It might be they're already compatible with V1.
Nope. Every template will need at least some modification to the rule signature, is my understanding. So drop-in compatibility, certainly not. It might be that it's only minor edits, but then just the fact that it is not one-to-one compatible means that users need to figure out which flavor of template they're loading, right? Like basically every constraint template would need a version bump, right? Because there's going to be the sort of oh, this template will only, the V1 flavor of templates will only work with some high watermark version of Gatekeeper, right? Like maybe we've already passed that, but older versions it won't work with.
Yeah, and then the other awkward thing is it's an all or nothing sort of situation, right? So you can't say like for these constraint like templates use the v0, for these ones use v1.
Like we could pull some tricks with the engine, right? Like if we literally called v1 a different engine.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. Yeah.
So maybe we could get away with needing to up the major version and preserve backwards compatibility. But then also you have two parallel Rego implementations, just like we have parallel Rego and Cell implementations for the PSP templates.
Yeah, to your point, it could be like a Rego v1 engine that figures out, oh, hey, this template needs to be compatible with Rego v1, then it automatically does that instead of like users manually doing that.
But we'll eventually need to move on from v0 engine anyways, right?
Eventually. I think the question here is, well, okay, let me caveat this, because like I think the question is, how do we manage this transition? And there are kind of like three forks here. The immediate fork is, do we drag our feet or not, right? Actually, I'm probably going to give more than three options. But do we drag our feet or not, right? Do we keep with the v0 syntax as long as possible to defer whatever pain, right? Second fork is, do we prefer Cell or Rego v1 as a migration target, knowing that referential constraints is a risk here, right? There are things we could do to allow a flavor of Cell that supports referential constraints, right? But it would not be a trivial amount of work. We'd basically need to write our own data cache, right? So that's first thing. Second thing is, like, can we do parallel implementations? Can we not do parallel implementations, right? Then there's the problem of, okay, well, eventually, if v0 compatibility is dropping off of OPA's roadmap, eventually we'll hit a CVE where we need to remove v0 altogether. And in my mind, it's a question, okay, well, do we even have v1 of Rego at that point, right? And that's kind of contingent on our initial migration story, right? Did we provide a path for users who are interested to go to Rego v1, or did we stay on Rego v0 to the point where Rego usage has basically dropped to 0 and everyone's using, I don't know, JSON path, Cell, pick your policy language, maybe Sentinel. It comes up with a Golang interpreter. I don't know. We're probably looking a year into the future, maybe more. But yeah, at that point, it could be possible to drop Rego altogether, or depending on sentiment, v1 is there. We just don't have any library constraints or something, right? Because for us at the project level, really the library is the main concern, right? Like, that is a lot of effort they have signed us up for to rewrite those templates. Like, we've seen how long it takes us to migrate the PSP stuff with the current level of involvement that we have. So I am very much not interested in doing that more than once. I'm not even interested in doing it once. I just have to. Anyway, does anyone disagree with what I said? Was I confusing? Did I miss any sort of branches in the decision tree?
We are just in a tough situation, I think.
Yeah, and this is my strong feelings, but
Max, you never have strong feelings.
This is true. This is true. But these are particularly strong. Because there's I feel like this is the better way to go, and then there's the, oh no, I have to do work because this other thing has happened, right? And that second one.
Yeah, let's discuss when Rita is here next week too. Yeah, I think we need to have a plan, like how would we want to go about it. I think V0 compat is definitely a good check, and then I just asked Styra, and then we can go from there for any decisions after that.
Yeah, the other thing I'm aware of is our Rego rewriter stuff will break with V1 style rule headings. Like, apparently the rule name is, I think, no longer populated in their abstract syntax tree parser code once users start using the V1 flavor of Rego. And the impact of that is we have code that validates the Rego a constraint template to ensure that there is a violation rule, right? Because that's the entry point for calling the constraint template, and it will raise an error if there is no violation rule. That code breaks when you try to use V1. There's an issue for it somewhere in open source or in the Gatekeeper repo. So in addition to maybe supporting 2 versions of the engine, we'll also need to update our sort of Rego refactoring stuff to handle whatever internals have changed. The other thing that this rewriting does, by the way, is it rewrites the package paths, right? So that's how we make sure that library functions are under data.lib. And also, it used to be involved in like sandboxing, right? So like data.inventory and data.lib were the only variables under data that you could call when writing gatekeeper style Rego. Because we've sharded the Rego environment, the sandboxing is less of a security concern now and more of a usability concern, right? Like, we probably still want to detect accesses to these other, if users access data.ivan tree or whatever, right? We'd still probably want to highlight, hey, we think you've mistyped a field. So it's more of a UX thing than a security thing. But, we should make sure that's also not impacted if we support V1. Does anyone have any other thoughts about this migration stuff or backwards compatibility, breaking change, blah, blah, blah? Have I killed the mood? Suggesting that maybe maybe V1 is not a migration target.
Yeah, I sense like some awkward conversations in the future.
I mean, in my view, this is market dynamics. Like, you can get away with a certain amount of like users put in work to go with you. If, you know, you're the incumbent, right? Like, you still don't want to do it lightly because you don't want to cause people pain. And I get that sometimes breaking changes are really good for cost minimization, or really, you know, avoid opportunity cost of like, okay, now things are possible that were previously not possible, right? But there's also a market reality of everyone here only has so much effort to give. And in the cost benefit analysis of, you know, you're causing me to do work, what do I get for keeping you as a product, right? It's sort of like, okay, well, what's the comparative effort for moving to an alternative? What would the cost benefit of moving to that alternative be? What value are you actually giving me? Do I drop you altogether? Right. And I'm not like targeting OPA with these considerations. This is just like general, sort of like, if you wind up doing work for the thing that you bought, that's an inversion of expectations. Right? Usually you get paid for the work you do. You don't pay to do work.
Cool. Do we have any other topics?
I'm so sorry, Sujat. I feel like you're just like, I really don't want to hear this
Yes.
conversation.
I mean, let's just talk to Styra and then we can, I guess, like, go from there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can also say like, hey, we have the V0, like we have to have that.
Please
And
don't
then,
deprecate the V0 compatible flags ever.
yeah, like if they can promise like, hey, this is going to be there for a foreseeable future, that's a different conversation. That, hey, this is going to go in a week or a month, whatever.
Yeah. Foreseeable future, a lot of what I just said is moot.
Yeah, because I don't want to like, panic anybody too. Like, hey,
Yeah. Yeah.
because they haven't even announced 1.0 yet, so I think it's like pretty early stages. I mean, maybe not pretty early, but early stages.
I mean, they've been toying with 1.0 for like a couple of years, I think.
Yeah, I don't think they have the release yet. I was just looking at it. I think 0.70 is the latest one. I think they have a
This
flag
may,
to make it 1.0 API compatible. Yeah, but they have not. They don't have it 1.0 really.
this may be a valuable feedback to them to support V0 compatible flag as long as possible.
Yeah.
I am not sure how much value they see in Gatekeeper at the moment, to be honest. Styra slash OPA, because of the VAP Kubernetes migration and the fact that Gatekeeper is Kubernetes focused, and that OPA kind of it has this multi-purpose tool aspect to it, right? Like, it's a language, but it's also an enforcement mechanism. It's also a web server. It's also a command line interface. In a lot of ways, like, Gatekeeper competes with the OPA project. It doesn't try to do everything the OPA project does, but in terms of, you know, where you plug it in, there's definitely overlap. And I don't know. Last I checked, as far as like what the kinds of tooling that Styra is building, they sort of like presume that you're using OPA the binary. So I see this as being maybe like an image concern, but I don't know if I see it as like a business concern for them. I don't know. That's just speculation. Do we want to end early, or are there other topics?
Yeah, we can give the time back if there's no other topics.
10 minutes to do PR reviews.
Yes.
Definitely let me know if the V0 compatibility stuff is indefinite. I will feel much better.
I CC'd you in the slide.
Oh, sweet. Thank you.
Oh, we can give the time back.
Right.
Please review the PRs. Yeah. Nice to see everybody.
Yeah.
Likewise.
Bye.